Welcome to this latest edition of the Real Deal Podcast, The Wire Remixed, Season 3, Episode 10, Reformation. As always, I'm joined by one, Robert Sapp. How you doing, Mr. Sapp?
Oh, doing pretty well. Hope everybody's doing really well out there. Stay healthy.
Yeah, definitely stay safe out there. This episode was directed by Christine Moore. It ranked all-time by Vulture, 20th all-time by Vulture, and of course the epigraph, call it a crisis of leadership by one Proposition Michelle. So, of course, we are headed towards the end of season 3, and things are, of course, moving quicker, to say to speak, and they're kind of ramping up towards the season finale. Some of the themes I had one theme. I had closing in. So we have the opening scene. You see two of Marlowe's soldiers have been killed by, of course, the Barksdales. So Fruit comes over, recognizes one of the dudes that was a dealer. That was a little mid-level dealer. Nobody major up, but a mid-level dealer. And you have also at the same time we see of course Slim Charles tell Avon the good news, and then we see the co-op losing people on their corners because of this Barksdale Stansfield war. The cops are on more corners than ever, and you see people from the East Side co-op start to lose people as far as get arrested and unnecessary attention on their operation as they are, of course, victims to this Barksdale Stansfield war. You see Justin, the young Justin, who of course Fat and I believe has no business in the drug game. You see him run into Snoop. You see him run into Snoop as another Marlowe Stansfield soldier got dropped. And you see our friend the Museau arrive from New York, and as he looks over, he sees where the towers used to be, and he says the phrase "reform." He says, "Reform, Lamar, reform," and starts laughing as he looks over where the towers used to be. A lot going on. This was a lot going on in this opening scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, buckle up, basically. I love this episode. I have all the words for this episode. I didn't want to text you just because I was just like, I don't want to give them the heads up on this, because I do. I want to talk about this episode. It's so good. So first thing is, so I'm gonna have to zoom back for a second, even before I can get into the scene. So you already know it's going to be one. So I have to zoom back, and so I just felt a tremendous amount of gratitude to you, Ril, for giving me the opportunity to be able to talk about this on a weekly basis. And I say that because when I got to the end of this episode, I was just like, I literally said out loud, and there's nobody around, I just said out loud to myself, that was a really good episode. And you know me, like I watch the stuff I like, I watch over and over and over and over again. So this is, I've done rewatches of the entire 5 seasons of The Wire at least 5 times before this. I've watched the seasons 5 times before. And when I said it out loud to myself, I was reflecting on it. I was like, it's good, but it's good in a different way than I had previously said it was good. And so the reason I'm grateful is because I get an opportunity to watch the show from a different perspective, and to watch the show not because I am enjoying The Wire and just want to put something in that I like, but to watch the show with a critical eye. I really like doing stuff like that, so I appreciate this opportunity to do that. So that's number one. Number two is the word reform is for real introduced. Like it is said out loud, and it's said by a very powerful and prominent character. And so we know that word has all the weight in the world. Not only for the characters in the show, but and you've done a really good job of this, bringing in like what was going on in the world at that point in time, and honestly, what's going on in the world right now. Like we're actually now in a space that applies to The Wire even more so than when The Wire is being written. Like everything that they're saying is like right on point for like what we're living and going through on a daily basis. And so reform is a big part of it. And reform is actually that's been the theme for the show. And so now they're actually stamping and naming it. So you best believe this episode is all about how the reforms are going. Those who represented reform as avatars, our characters that represent reform, now we're going to get a chance to see how their reforms are going. And then lastly, to your point, like I think the thing that impressed me the most, the other part of that wow, was just like, I was just like, so much happened in this episode in such a very, very specific way. And it's only the 9th episode of a 12 episode
the 10th
season.
No, it's a 10.
This was 10?
Yeah, this was 10. Yeah, this was 10.
Season 3 10?
Yeah. Reformation,
okay.
This was 10, yeah.
Yep. Okay. Anyway, sorry. 10th episode in the 12 episode season. Got it. Yeah. Yep. Okay. Yes. So so much happened here. And I'm like, we're here, like we are all the chickens, to your point, what you were saying earlier, I'll use my own little phrase. All the chickens have come home to roost in this episode, but then you're like, wow, there's still 2 more episodes to go. So pretty incredible. And that's just the opening.
Yeah, so we go to the detail with McNulty. They are complaining. They are still trying to find ways to get up on these burners quicker. So you hear McNulty complaining about how the case should be going, what should be done, and of course Daniels of course checks him at the end of the scene, basically saying, and by your measure, we're all pieces of shit. Once they started talking about Judge, failing. So, McNulty, of course, says point taken, and we begin to see how the detail is going about. Again, trying to get up on these burners, as they, try to flesh out their plan for that. What were your thoughts on this exchange?
Yeah, the burner plan, like there, I'll get to that when another scene comes up. So I'll save that. The most important part of that conversation was the McNulty part, where he goes, "I know," or he's like, "Fair." Like that's what we were talking about. See, this is why television show, like all this stuff, could be such a powerful like motivator, and just what like things that people want to see. It's because of stuff like this. And we talked about McNulty's growth last episode. We pointed out every part where it was like a key, like another light bulb going off of, you need to reflect. You need to reflect. You need to reflect on your behavior. You need to reflect on your behavior. And it was like, there were so many of them that it was just like, this has to be put here intentionally. And then we get to this episode, and all of that intentionality that the writers were putting in pays off. And it doesn't have to be a big, long speech or anything like that. Just McNulty, from everything that we've known from him from the start of season 1 up until this point, him just saying fair was everything.
Yeah, it was something. Again, they giving you more than enough a few breadcrumbs on what direction McNulty's character is going into. Plus, we're at the point of the season in general where they're not only trying to wrap up the season with these last couple of episodes, you're going to start to see things that they would show season 4. So
yes, you were 100% correct. Sorry, what makes the Wire? Sorry, I had to jump in. Just what makes the Wire special is they start doing that way before.
Yeah,
average shows, regular shows do what you just said. The Wire doesn't do that. They've been building this in damn near since day one. Not necessarily the McNulty stuff, because I think they did take a hard shift on the McNulty character that we talked about in season 2. But the Wire goes above and beyond that every single time. They're building stuff in right now that won't play out to the end of season 5. Right? Like, yeah, it's ridiculous. Sorry. That's all I wanted to say.
So you have Perlman, Daniels, and Phelan. Of course, Perlman has known Phelan for a long time. He's flirting with her during this conversation. They're trying to, of course, convince him. They're trying to convince him to get these prepaid these prepaid burners tapped before they're actually sold to the dealers. So at first, Phelan at the beginning is reluctant, but he continues to flirt with Perlman, and he ends up giving them he doesn't give them everything they want, but gives them most of what they want. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Set up.
We go to Carver and Colvin. So Colvin, and I liked how they led up to this scene, because this has been building to this scene has been building throughout the whole course of the season with Colvin and Carver. Colvin goes to Carver and just basically tells him, like, you're just not a good police officer. And he basically says you do everything but actual police work, as far as people out there knowing, as far as you getting the information from people out there on the street. He says if you're out there banging heads on everybody, it gets to a point where nobody likes you and you're not getting any information. And he says it in a way that is respectful. He says it in a way that he's also trying to teach as much as he's trying to criticize. And just the look, and brilliant job by Seth Gillum, just the look on Carver's face was priceless over the course of this particular scene. What are your thoughts on this exchange?
All the thoughts. This is why this episode is special. And I can see how it might get misinterpreted. I mean, it got very high. It's high on. Anyway, this is why this episode is special. It's for a scene like this. And the reason why I love this episode so much is because all the cards were on the table in terms of like laid out, but they were all face down up until this episode. This is the turning the cards over and showing specifically what you have. And this is what they're saying. The great thing about this scene is that it's not only a scene between Carver and Colvin, but more importantly, it's a scene between the show and the audience. Everything that Colvin is saying, he is saying to the audience. This is their message on policing. This is what the Wire, this is where we stand, and this is what we believe policing to be. And what he's effectively saying is that we have become militarized. I think we've heard that very recently, correct?
Yes.
We have become militarized, and the only way in which to reverse that is to go back to how it used to be, where, and this is the argument, militarized versus person-to-person, taking care of, living in, being surrounded by the neighborhood that you police, walking that beat. And so I've said top 5 scene a few times, and I stand by those were top 5 scenes. I would say top 5 scene to this, but I think I'm going to switch up the category a little bit and be like, there's top 5 fantastic scenes, and we're going to have an all-timer coming up very soon. So that will be like, when we get there, that'll be like a top 2 scene, right? Like the very best of best, a scene in a television show or in a movie. This is a scene that means more than a television show or a movie or just being a good scene. This is a mission statement scene. And I think a couple of the other ones I identified fall more into that category, where they're more mission statement than just like the best scene on the planet. So that's how I'll kind of like cut it up a little bit as we move into the rest of the seasons. But this is a very important scene because it not only sets up what's going on in the dynamic, but it also gives us a viewpoint of McNulty's future and a viewpoint of Carver's future. Everything that Bunny Colvin is saying in there is very important to anybody, any character who is a police officer. It's why I just pointed out too, but it's why Herc is where Herc happens. Everybody. It is all summed up in this scene right here.
Well,
that's why it's such an important scene.
So to your point, and again, it's a spectacular scene. You know this. It's not a coincidence that you had McNulty and Carver in back-to-back scenes. It's not a coincidence because besides the reformers that we've seen throughout the course of this episode, and we will, this is a heavy reformer. This is heavy reformer episode from the 3 perspectives of those 3 particular reformers. But you see Carver and McNulty go back to back because they are in essence this season going through their own sort of reform.
Personal reformation.
Yes.
Yep.
We saw with McNulty holding himself accountable with some help, of course, with this, earlier in this episode, and then now we're seeing it with Carver. Now we were seeing it with Carver. Carver is starting, of course, even going back to last season, where those breadcrumbs are being laid about the changing his character and how that was being developed. So I think when they title the episode Reform, they're going all in with, like, you're gonna know what it looks like from different aspects, different viewpoints, and different, come from different places. So we go to the reporter in Amsterdam. So reporter, of course, we saw Herc in the previous episode called the Baltimore Sun-Times. The reporter makes his way down to Amsterdam. He talks. He sees Herc. Herc talks to the reporter about Herc talks to the reporter about Amsterdam, and then the reporter looks, just completely befuddled about what he is witnessing, what he is seeing. Quick scene, but what are your thoughts about this scene?
I mean, it's definitely set up, but just something you said at the very end is when you said he's horrified by what he's seeing. What he's seeing is horrifying. It's horrifying, and that's the point. It's horrifying in all of its way. It's horrifying whether it's all condensed in one area. It's horrifying whether it's spread all around. What this episode is specifically thinking about and talking about and working out is people's perception and how that plays into everything. And then whose perception matters versus who doesn't matter, right? Average citizen could come and step in there and go, oh, this is horrible. Nobody cares. A reporter goes in and says, oh, this is horrible. A lot of people start caring. And then you go to your bosses, say, this is hard. You say that people start caring. And so it's not only, yes, this is horrible. Everybody can agree on that. But it's also who is seeing it and whose perspective it is, and does that person matter?
Yes.
And is it okay? This is essentially what the show's been asking us from day one. Are you okay, human beings who live on the planet Earth? This is a show, but this show is about real life. So, you human beings living on this earth, are you okay with certain people making decisions based off of their own interpretations of your reality? Are you okay with that? That's what the show's asking us. And that's what that scene meant.
Yeah, quick scene, and so the reporter finally has a feel of what, somewhat a feel of what is going on in terms of what he's watching. We go to Cuddy and the deacon. They discuss the gym. Cuddy has all the equipment set up, but he has no boxes, and that's what basically the deacon tells him. Says, "Hey, all you need is some kids." Definitely a setup scene. Any thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, yes. So, the last, there's two competing thoughts. One I just want to wrap up on the last thing that I said, because what you were saying at the very end of it is what really sparked it. And it's just that, with Bunny Colvin, he is what we are experiencing as the audience is, we've been given, just thinking strictly as characters, strictly as a TV show now, we've been given just Bunny Colvin's experience and his rationale. And one of my favorite sayings, and in particular, I use it all the time, but it particularly applies to television. I think this is where it's rooted, television and movies, is everybody's the hero in their own story. And the way that I interpret that is, or the way I have interpreted that is, in our heads, like in Robert's head, in Cyril's head, when we do an action, we know all the rationale behind it. But the observer, so if I'm doing something and it's just you and you see me, all you can judge me on is my action. So the viewers, yeah, we have all the rationale for Bunny Colvin. The characters don't have any of that rationale. All they see is they walk in and they see police standing and drugs being freely sold. So that popped into my mind. That was off the last thing. And then in this scene, remind me what the scene is again? I really focused on that last scene.
No, this what
are we talking about? What was the scene?
Cuddy and the deacon.
Yes, yeah. Deacon, angel on shoulder. Like that's the like he represents that. It's just too clear. It is flat out. That's what he represents. He's the angel on people's shoulder. It's up to the person to decide if they're going to listen to the angel, but he's the angel on people's shoulder in this season. And so, and this is what I mean. And this is what I say, like, in watching this again, now I can see it. Everything that's happening with Cuddy is setting us up for the season to come. And so the interplay, now I'm watching all the interplay with Cuddy and the deacon as creating the moral foundation that he can stand on in order to bring those kids in. So that's it.
So we go to the detail. They are listening to Bodie having a call between Bodie and his grandmother. They also able to decode that Bodie, of course, is talking about drugs. They play a earlier recording from a couple years ago with Bodie with some confirmation and So you see them digging into the Barksdales, with these in terms of these wireless phones. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Tell me specifically when the scene you're talking about ends, because I don't want to leap into. I have a lot to say. We're not at the point where they're talking about the plan yet, how they're going to. Okay, set up. So
we go to
everything is setting up. Anything wireless is setting up to that scene. So set up. Yeah.
We go to Colvin, the reporter. Colvin lies to the reporter. and convinces him to hold the story off, hold off on the story for at least a week. Of course, Colvin tells the reporter that this is, we're gonna jump out on this. It gives him, this is a tactical, or this is for tactics, and just kind of like just convinces the reporter enough to give him a little bit of time before he makes his next move on Amsterdam. What were your thoughts on this?
Yeah, set up. This is literally a story beat. This is a story beat. They need to move the action along to get Colvin to reveal to his supervisor. They need downtown to finally find out about this. So this is literally just to move that along.
So we have Brother Mouzone, who's in town, as we know, meet up with Vincent, who's the advisor to one Marlowe. Of course, Mouzone is looking for Omar. Vincent, of course, says he knows who Omar is, and basically tells, gives him the land, Omar's, who he runs with, and the fact that Omar basically runs on his own, and he's not connected to anybody from that standpoint. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Set up.
We see Carcetti with Teresa DiGastino, and a couple of Tommy's old college friends talking about the camp. They're talking about the upcoming race, and Teresa tells Tommy that
they're mapping out their strategy.
So. Yeah, they're mapping out their strategy, and they're telling Tommy that Tony Gray has to get into the race to take away votes from Roy. So she puts that out there and says that's the only way you're going to win. Of course, he's feeling bad because Tony is his friend, or his closest friend on the council. What were your thoughts on this scene?
He's full of shit. No, he's not feeling bad. He's not, but he needs to. It's part of developing that political be liked by all persona. I think that's the underlaying of it. My first read on it was meaning 24 meeting and me today. Both reads initially were he's full of shit. He's just full of crap. And then I think I'll add the component underneath that of that he is constantly toying with that political persona. And in that political persona, you always have to be viewed as, especially before the last 4 years, you always had to be viewed in a positive light. That's what you wanted to lean into all the time. And you do all your dirt behind the doors, but in public, in front of people, you put on a happy face, you put on a smile. And so I think there's also, he's playing around with that with them, but he's not being honest. He does not feel bad at all.
Yeah, I mean, it was almost like he's trying to convince himself that he should feel bad.
No. He doesn't feel bad at all. There's no part of him that feels bad. And we know this because me and you have laid out point by point over the entire season how he's been manipulating Tony. It's that thing of, I know why I'm doing it, but when I say it out loud, how do other people perceive it? And so if you're somebody who doesn't care about what other people perceive, you don't have these types of thoughts. But if your job is to make other people care about you and care about the different things, like that's how you actually get your power, is that people have to like you enough to vote for you, then you have to perfect and hone that BS, which is why we all generally, you know what, let me stop. Before I start talking about putting other people in this.
So we go to.
I'll speak for myself. That's why I think politicians more often than not are less than honest. Let me put it like that. How about that?
Gotcha. No.
Most of the time.
So we go to the detail. They're still staying on Bodie's phone, and they were able to decode one of his phone calls dealing, with him talking about drugs. Then you hear then Daniels approaches the unit, we're talking about Prez and asking questions, these survey questions about Prez. Do you think he harbored any racial bias or things of that nature? So, which they kind of took personally as far as not believing that that Prez is any type of racism, what have you. So you see the unit defend him from that standpoint. But of course, Daniels being the boss has to that's part of his doing his job as far as asking them those questions in regards to that situation. So, what are your thoughts on those two exchanges?
Yeah, I don't know if they're coming to his defense, but I think they're just acknowledging the reality of that character's disposition. The person, I mean, of course, Freeman was going to say Freeman kind of took him under his wing, and Daniels is his direct supervisor, so they feel responsible for him. So I was the most interested in listening to what Cheryl, right? That's her name, right?
Who are you talking about?
What's the lady's name? The character. What's her character's name? The lady.
To his
who listens to the phone. No. We're talking about the unit now. We're talking the details.
Oh yeah. Caroline.
I don't know where. Oh, Cheryl. I know where I got Cheryl from. I was like, where's Cheryl come from? So Caroline is I was really interested in like her comments because she doesn't know Prez like that. She doesn't feel responsible for him in any way. And so her comments were kind of like the most honest ones in that scene for those characters, at least to me, or it was the North Star for that scene where she's like, he had some stuff going on, but I didn't really get a racial vibe. And I'll agree with that as the character was presented to us. The character that was presented to us didn't give off that vibe. That does not mean he's not racist at all, like not even a little bit. But he did not present himself at work or on the scenes that we see, like he didn't present himself as that. But again, the question, which is so important, and which is why I said they had the actor call himself out on it, this is not if Prez was racist or not. It's about how white people police Black communities, period. And so so when Prez kind of like says, I'm not even sure. Maybe I did. Who knows what's going through your mind right there? That is the show, the character, everybody acknowledging that this is present, even though people can't put their finger on it, and it's hard and it's complicated. As we've seen many, 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 many times, people have a very hard time putting their finger on why is it that police shoot Black men. So this was The Wire early on, trying to deal with that, wrestle with that question.
So we go to Omar and Butchie. Of course, Omar is as he wants to bark. We know how bad he wants to Barksdales. Tells Butchie that he's paying cash to get knowledge on any whereabouts or information about the Barksdales. And Butchie, of course, tells him he doesn't have to pay, and gives him and tells him where the Barksdales are. Our main headquarters are at. Of course, is that the funeral home, and of course. Omar is not happy that Butchie held out this particular piece of information. A couple of things. So we have been tracking that whole Butchie, Prop Joe, Stringer Bell dynamic. Even Omar, in regards to even going back to the end of season 2. Did you see anything to kind of bring that up again, or what were your thoughts on this scene?
Wait, say that again, that last part?
I said, was there anything, have you seen anything that would say that they were in?
No.
Oh, okay.
No.
What were your thoughts on this scene?
My honest thought, real, is I think the show dropped it. That's my honest thought. Like, if I'm being 100% real, because it was so present in last season, and it's not present at all this season. So I think maybe that was a thought, or that felt like the energy that was happening there. But when they got to season 3, I think their plates were full, and they didn't have time to mess around with some back plot. So I think this season actually pointed out to be straightforward. And I kind of knew that was going to happen when I was bringing that up, but I want to be honest in the way in which we're viewing these episodes. And so I went just with the information that they're giving me, that they were giving me, and the energy that they were giving in the scene. This will be a little bit of a jump ahead, but this is the perfect kind of like example of it. Just like when we get to the bar scene and we see Lieutenant Rawls, right? Like that could be like me being here. Oh, spoiler alert, blah blah blah. Like not even that, but it never goes anywhere, ever. We've wondered about that for years. I've wondered about that for years. And it's something they dropped. And this happens. It happens. It does. This happens. Great shows have average shows, horrible shows. It just happens. And so, no, I haven't seen anything on it. It's pretty straightforward. It's so straightforward. It's so straightforward in this season. And the reason why is because of the reason why things have chilled out on other ends is because the interplay between Stringer and Avon, their personal dynamic got so freaking interesting. I guess that's the best way to put it. It got so interesting. So I think a lot of resources went that way, and deservedly so. I'm not complaining at all.
Yeah. So we see again Butchie be the mentor, and basically tells Omar he basically was protecting him from himself.
Yeah.
But now, which he was. But now Omar's at a point to where he's willing to basically go in basically kamikaze mode in regards to where he's at with the Barksdales. What are your thoughts on their dynamic as far as the conversation that took place?
Yeah, I think you're exactly right. This is what it's not a negative. Again, that the show went in this direction. I have no problems with it, and I could have come up with like character stuff and like different everything like. But sometimes a spade is a spade. Sometimes the show just changed. It just went a different direction. So the thing that you're saying right now is absolutely correct. Butch is his mentor. Period. Bottom line. End of story. Is his mentor.
So we go to Stringer. He sees that they have new muscle, and he also has been told that they are losing money and running low on products. So again, you see Stringer, dealing with some bad news from a standpoint of what this war is costing them as an organization. What were your thoughts?
Sorry, set up.
We go to the co-op and prop and we go back to Amsterdam. Excuse me. We go back to Amsterdam with Cuddy, Carver, and back at Amsterdam, Cuddy is he's recruiting some hoppers for his gym, some young people to be in his gym, and Carver assists him with that process. He has a brief exchange with Justin and Spider in terms of a little quick, especially with Spider, a little quick boxing lesson. What were your thoughts?
This is set up. Let me be clear, and this is not even set up for this season. This is set up for where their characters are going. And so to dive into that would be giving away too much. But this is also, again, another piece in that foundation that is being laid so that Cuddy can do what he needs to do with these kids.
You have, and also you see Carver and his interaction with the kids as well. You have Kima McNulty. You have McNulty, complaining about Teresa DiGascino, says that she basically sees right through him. He, again, a continuation on that self-reflection, and he allows himself to be vulnerable with Kima during this particular scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, you named it. Reflection. Yep.
So we get to the co-op, and they call in Stringer, and Prop Joe lets Stringer know that they are going to cut the Barksdales out if he cannot convince them to take a truce, to talk out a truce and stop the war. Also, we find out that Marlowe is, of course, willing to talk to the co-op if he can keep his corners. So now Stringer, is basically been in the Barksdales have basically been boxed in the corner by the co-op and Prop Joe. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, we're on the downhill part of this whole situation. I want to say setup because I think I don't think I can say what I need to say until we get to another scene.
So we see.
But this is all about Avon and Stringer's relationship. Yes. Everything that is involved with them.
And of course, you hear Prop Joe during the scene use the epigraph, call it a crisis of leadership. You have Colvin and Mello discussing Amsterdam, and discussing Amsterdam, and he says that Colvin says that he's not going to lock up people in Amsterdam, and that he's going to Colvin at this point knows that his experiment is on borrowed time, and that he's about to give himself up. Basically, at any moment, he's going to confess to the bosses. But they're discussing basically how to present Amsterdam once Colvin makes that decision. So Colvin basically says, "Hey, I'm not going to polish it up or anything like that. I'm not going to lock up people. I'm just going to show them, basically show them as it is." And Mello is trying to convince him otherwise. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, there's a lot to go into in this one. And so let me streamline this. The explanation is whatever. Again, as I've kind of stated, this is not about like the consequences per se of what is going to happen, but it's about people's reaction to what he thought was a decent idea in his mind, or the last best idea he could possibly come up with. And so what you're seeing is that people are genuinely horrified at this. This is genuinely a horrible idea. It's genuinely a horrible idea. And so people are horrified at it. So that there's another group of reactions around that. Like he's now starting to get the reactions from people who he does not directly influence, or he cannot directly influence. So as you see, it's a whole different thing. The other part of this, and this is what I talk about, like with the statement on reform right now, how the reforms are going. His reform is going poorly, and the reason his reform is going poorly, what I think the show is trying to state, is that he made it all about him, and all about himself. What he could do once people find out what he was willing to do, and everything like that. And basically, this scene is the commander is going, "We don't care about you. This has nothing to do with you. Forget you. You put us all at risk here. So forget that. Forget what you feel like you was going to do and what sword you was going to fall on. Ain't happening that way." I'm done.
We go to Marlo and Devon and Chris. So Marlo and Chris wait for Devon to come out her place. She comes out. Marlo says her name and then proceeds to shoot her 3 times, twice in the chest and once in the mouth. Very personal killing, and something that Chris says was necessary, as we see, again, Marlo send a message to the Barksdales with this particular murder. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, it's interesting, right? I mean, like the scene is whatever. This is a setup scene, but it's interesting because we talked about how risky it was for Avon to be in that car last week.
Right.
And now we have the head of an organization actually going out and committing the murder. When he's the head of the organization. It's different when you're the soldier working your way up. But when you're the actual head, you're not supposed to take the gun yourself and go and do it. You're supposed to order somebody to do that so that you're not directly implicated in that. And so I thought that was interesting. And so I thought about that. And I think the statement that they're trying to make, the show is trying to make, with the Marlo character is that Marlo doesn't care about your rules. Like that's the next thing coming, and that's the next thing coming. Let me start right there.
Yeah, I mean, they're going to, of course, they're laying out the foundation. They're laying out foundational pieces to the Jamie Hector character. The Marlo Stansfield character, of course, played by Jamie Hector. So, we gotta get to, we know a few things about him, but it's digging deep now in terms of being about him. And I think that, to your point, I think you're 100% right. Like Marlo is not about the rules, and they're going to show you what the next, it's kind of like a generational type thing. We're showing you what the next generation of drug dealer is going to look like past the Barksdales. You have Avon, Slim, Charles, Stringer. So Stringer comes back from the meeting, of course. Comes back from the co-ops meeting where, of course, they threatened to cut the Barksdales out if they didn't stop the war or be willing to run the truce. So it got to a point to where he's telling Avon, you're up here playing soldier, shooting dope without a needle on a power trip, and Avon, he's also trying, convince Avon to talk truce. He says, hey, you didn't took down Marlo a couple of notches. You took down a couple of notches, says that, this is the perfect time. And seemingly, for the first time in the entire season, seemingly somewhat had Avon's attention, but then Slim Charles walks in, tells Avon about Devon, and Avon lets Stringer know that that Marlo killed Devon, and you still want to talk truce, and that was that. What were your thoughts?
All right, this is what I was waiting for. What became so clear to me in this episode that I had not noticed before was the Barksdale organization right now are two completely separate organizations.
Right.
And the way you know this is Stringer was at the co-op meeting, taking shit from the co-op and all that stuff. Avon nowhere to be seen, right? Doesn't even know about this, doesn't talk to co-op. They can't communicate with him. Everything is going through Stringer. And in this one, the muscle part of it, the war part of it, so like that, if that's Stringer's the business side, and the war part of it, Stringer's not involved in it. He didn't know new muscle was coming, and he didn't know, or especially in this situation, Slim Charles comes in, doesn't acknowledge Stringer at all, goes directly to Avon because it's a different side of the bit. So the way that they're falling is this is the perfect example. The show is clearly illustrated in this episode. Not only are they not on the same page, they're running two separate organizations right now.
Yeah. I mean, you see, and we'll see, we'll see Stringer later on in the episode, with the real estate, again, a part that Avon, of course, wants no part of or cares nothing about. So, you're absolutely right. Stringer's dealing with.
He says it in the beginning of that scene that you're talking about. He literally goes, he's like, but once we get this thing taken care of, we'll get back to business. Avon literally says that.
Yeah. And you also have Stringer have this line to Avon. He says, there are games beyond the fucking game. When he's trying to convince Avon, when he's trying to convince Avon to back out this war. Did you think that before Slim Charles walked in that Avon was? Did you think Stringer had Avon's ear? Not so much he was going to change.
No, not even remotely. Not even remotely. I think what the show. Keep going, fire.
No, go ahead.
Okay.
There was a hesitation.
Well, I think the show is. Go ahead, Cyril. Keep going.
No, there was a hesitation by Avon when he said that now's the time. now is the perfect time to us to talk truth before what's
Yeah.
what are your thoughts?
Yeah. So it is very clear upon this rewatch and reflecting, and then now getting to this point, it's very clear that once Stringer admitted that he killed D'Angelo, Avon was no longer acting with him anymore. It's slow and it's subtle, but not really if you're looking for it. I just wasn't really paying attention to that the other times. Now I was really paying attention to that. I was like, oh, they're making it very clear that they don't mess with each other in the same way that they did. And so I think, of course, somebody that you're close to, when they're talking to you, you're going to hear them. But from what I'm getting from the show has clearly said it was a definitive, and probably way before that, to be honest with you. I just caught it this time around thinking about the D'Angelo situation. Admission was that admission, I know what it is in my head. Before, I've always wondered why Avon didn't react violently towards Stringer. That's what I was focused on before. Now, I realize that his get back at Stringer was to withdraw himself from whatever it is that Stringer was doing. And by withdrawing himself, he's severing that connection that they had. Now, on the flip side of that, though, Stringer is not giving Avon this advice because he cares about Avon's well-being and the well-being of the Barksdale organization. Stringer's giving Avon this advice because Stringer doesn't want to get kicked out of the co-op.
Yes.
He does. He's the head of the co-op. He's one of the heads. He's the lead. He has a lot of power, and he doesn't want to relinquish that power. And so everything he's saying to Avon is to hold on to that power. So Stringer's not coming from a good place. So no, hell no.
Yeah, no, he. I want to go back to that for a minute because it was, I know it was 2 episodes ago, but it was, it's interesting in that he didn't react violently, considering that how close he was to D'Angelo, what have you, to his nephew. I think part of Avon thought Stringer was right in terms of killing D'Angelo. I think part of it believed that he was correct. But I don't think of course he can't trust him again based on the fact that he went behind his back. But I think you don't think part of it at all? That he thought that Stringer was right in killing D'Angelo?
No, I was agreeing with you on the fact that, but he lied to him. It doesn't matter because he lied.
Right. Yes.
So, right, like if Avon had came to Stringer, like if we had seen the scene, Stringer comes to Avon, I think this, we really need to take care. They debate back and forth for episode, 2 episodes, everything, and they both come to the mutual conclusion to take him out. And it's like, Stringer, you handle it, then absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, right? But the fact that he made the move behind his back cancels out whatever legitimacy he would have had in making that move.
Yeah.
Because if it was a really good move, you would have told me. I know that's what I would have said.
Yeah, but no, to your point, yeah, he's completely cut Stringer off as far as what he seems to be deemed to be important as far as the organization. That of course is killing Marlo and going to war and taking out Marlo. So yeah, Slim Charles is at this point his number 2. And everything from the Avon perspective is going through Slim Charles on up to Avon. We go to Lamar and Brother Muzone. So Brother Muzone comes up with this plan to find Omar or information about Omar. He sends Lamar into a bar. Lamar, of course, feels uncomfortable because it's a gay bar. So Brother Muzone, says that you will be the perfect bait for going into this bar because of how insecure you are, not insecure you are, but how uncomfortable you'll be in this bar. So Muzone sends Lamar out. since Lamar on basically on the hunt, not a hunt for Amar, but on a hunt for Omar, but sends him to the bar to try to execute his plan and of course find Omar. What were your thoughts on this plan and what were your thoughts on this exchange between New Zone and Lamar?
Wait. So this is Lamar's first time going in?
Yeah, this is them discussing. Yeah, no, this is them discussing.
Yeah, okay. Set up. Just set up.
So you have Tommy and his wife. They're discussing the campaign, and he tells her that he's going to have to, betray Tony Gray from that standpoint. And he tells her that he feels terrible about the Tony Gray situation. Tells her that, of course, Tony can't win. Tells her that Tony can't win and that he's running on education and basically has no chance running on that platform. What were your thoughts on this scene?
This is just kind of like more illustration of like what I was talking about in terms of like the BS of it. Like if you watch the flow of the scene, right? Like it's like they're both sitting in bed. He's talking to her, and he's talking about blah blah blah, I feel bad, all this stuff. And she's like, yeah. She gives him a couple of suggestions, and then she turns her light off and turns over, and then he turns his light off, and then he turns over as well. So I say that to say, like, it's just like this. It's him playing out that I feel bad, guilty, like tone, and like this. Let me play it out on people I'm close to first, and then I can try it out nationally. So this is another example of that to me.
We go to Cuddy and the Young Hoppers. They come into his gym. There's about 4 or 5 of them. We have Justin, Spider, and about three others come into the gym. They start playing with the equipment. Of course, Cuddy just gets frustrated. We'll see how that plays out. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, this is another brick in that foundation that I was talking about, and it's a lesson that has to be learned. If you work with kids in any capacity, if you have kids, you learn this lesson often. They're going to do things that really, really frustrate you, and you still have to be the adult, the mature one. As a matter of fact, you always have to be the adult and the mature one in that situation. And the moment you lose your cool is the moment you lose them. Particularly if you're not mom, dad, aunt, uncle, grandma, somebody, a family relation. You will lose them in a heartbeat. And depending upon the amount of trauma or where, depending upon trauma history, let's just put it like that. Depending upon trauma history, it becomes more on the adult to keep their reactions in check and to keep their judgments in check. And so this is a lesson he had to learn. You have to learn this lesson. If you're dealing with kids, you just have to learn it. You have to learn it every single time. You have to learn it. So that's why I say this is another building block. He learned that lesson quick. Can't intimidate him, can't yell at him, can't flip out on him.
So we go to the detail.
Before you earn the trust. Before you earn the trust.
Yes. You go to the detail. The Barksdales have ditched their burners. So this is when Freeman and McNulty come up with the ideal of bugging the prepaid burners and selling them and selling them to the Barksdales. What were your thoughts on this particular scene?
Setup.
So we go to Cuddy with the young kids. They continue not to listen. He gets in the face of one of the young boys who dares him to touch him. Of course, he knows he can't put hands on him, and they walk out of his gym. Again, Cuddy frustrated. Kids that he doesn't know, kids that don't know him. And by the way, these are kids, who, a lot of them have been on the corner. A lot of them been, few of them have been, a lot of them have been on the corner in the free zone in Amsterdam. At least I know Spider who was with under Bodie, worked for Barksdale. So a lot of these kids are off the corner as well. But they're not listening. They're not listening to him, and they don't know. They don't know Cuddy. They don't know him whatsoever. So this is the beginning of his process of his process with this boxing gym and trying to ingratiate himself to these young kids. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, and I mean, like, I probably jumped a little bit because this is also what I was thinking about. But then I'll just add a little, everything I said before applies, and then I'll add this on to there. So you said, of course, you can't put hands on a kid. Yes, that is embedded in our heads, definitely. But out on the streets, out in those corners, different rules. So there was no, of course, and he doesn't do this. He's never done this before. So there's a very high possibility he would have punched that kid in the face and would have had thought twice about it. I say that to say the lesson is in not doing it and then analyzing why they had the reaction to you. And that's the building block process. So it's why didn't I hit this kid right in his face? He was talking crazy to me. Anybody talks crazy to me, I punched them in their face.
Right.
I handled them. So why didn't he do that this time? And that's where the growth happens as he analyzes and thinks about that.
So we get the detail watching Stringer Bell. They notice how Stringer's looking stressed out. He's smoking a cigarette outside his print shop. And you hear Lester say, "Heavy the head that wears the crown." Quick scene. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Yeah, I mean, Lester named it, but it definitely gives the viewers the chance to see the character react to the walls closing in on him.
Stringer then in the next scene makes a call to the Western District Police. What were your thoughts? Reluctantly, he makes the call.
No, not reluctantly.
Not reluctant. So you want
not
to?
Reluctant.
Not reluctant.
No.
Well, he'll just try to sell us so that he actually felt bad. But
I mean, like it is not the honorable way to do something. And so I think that's more the wrestle than anything else. But he doesn't have the muscle to do. He doesn't have the everything. Anyways, so much I want to say, but yeah. So this is the only way he could think about going about doing it.
Yeah,
because he can't do it any other way. That's what that scene, him smoking and everything, is doing, and all of that.
Yeah, I remember when I first saw this scene, I was really surprised that he would go that far. When I first saw it, I was like, you gonna call the cops? Like what? Like even like I was kind of like I was kind of taken back.
But now think about it, like if they're running two separate organizations, right? Yeah. Like, or they're running two separate paths in the same organization, right? Like if each of them, like let's think of them both as like two equally powerful CEOs that are in charge of very specific parts of the business, right? And so you have that dynamic that's there. The traditional way in which mobsters, illegal, like this type of the traditional way, of course, is to kill them. But Stringer, Avon's in charge of the muscle. So how is Stringer going to be able to pull that off? So he did the thing that was available to him. And that's what all that smoking and walking back and forth was outside. Him trying to figure out how to go at Avon.
Yeah. When they were showing him smoking the cigarette on the camera. Yeah. It's just something. didn't. I just hadn't seen anything on like it somewhat on television in regards to somebody calling the police on the number two calling the police on number one. So it was something different. But I know what he did makes perfect sense in terms of his back is against the wall. He feels like he's about to lose what he has. So
to your point, Will, in their world, there is nothing worse that he could have done. In their world, there's nothing worse that he could have done. And it was the first time you saw it. And honestly, I haven't watched everything that's out there, but I haven't seen it since. Because there's just a certain way this is handled. You kill him. Avon dies. It's just that simple. That's how you get to be the top. You kill him. That's how the Barksdales got to be on top. That's how everybody will come. That's the method. That's the method. That's the accepted method. You know it when you go into that world, and all that.
So we go to Cuddy just talking with a veteran boxing coach who, of course, has been down the road that he's trying to go down in regards to training young boxers. Coach, the older guy, gives him some good advice. Basically says that they'll come around, and he shows him an important part at the end of the scene when he shows him a young kid that clearly isn't trained, that's just starting out. The kid was just starting out, and he looks at him, says, "What do you see?" Cuddy says, "Weak." Weakness. It says weak, and then the kid says no. The guy says no. That kid is the beginning. So he's trying to actually send a message to Cuddy about how he's going to have to be patient and recognize it's all not going to happen at one at one time. Very good scene. What are your thoughts?
No, agree. Very good scene. Agree. Everything you're saying, that's exactly what they were trying to get across. You named it.
So we go to Kima Bubbles McNulty. They discuss the next move in regards to the case. They get Bubbles to go undercover, going after Squeak, who of course is Bernard's girlfriend. So you see another. We see them, trying to, because they're up against the clock as well in terms of trying to get on to these phones, and another way to come at the Barksdale organization. So they see an opening with Bernard and Squeak, and we see them begin to take advantage of that opening. What were your thoughts on Bubbles working with Kima and McNulty once again?
This setup.
So we go back to the detail with McNulty, and they see that Stringer is called the Western District. Quick scene, but what were your thoughts?
Setup.
Cuddy apologizes to Justin as some of the guys come back into this gym. Well, he goes to the corner, I should say. He goes to the corner and apologizes to Justin eye to eye. Face to face. Very important scene for Cuddy moving forward, and as we'll see, as we'll see his development, going on towards the end of the season, as to season 4 as well. But very, very important moment for one, Dennis Wise, in this particular scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, this is building the foundation. I would make the argument, I think the argument is accurate, that everything that they're doing with Dennis Cuddy, they're building for next season. They're building for the future. So this is all laying foundation. Yeah,
it's interesting to watch how he deals with issues versus, say, Stringer or Colvin. Like when
Colvin, Stringer.
We've seen him have a number of situations where I'm talking about Cuddy in regards to where the door has been slammed in his face, but he's able to get around it and even and still prosper with how he approaches those failures versus the other two that the other two gentlemen that I just mentioned. Any
Yep.
thoughts on that?
And I talked about it last week. The show's message, and they're saying it through their characters. So the show's message and what they're saying right here is because Cuddy is doing it from a place of honesty, a place of actual growth. He identified his change, and he wants to actively be a part of that change, and he wants to do it honestly, and he wants to make it about other people. That's the blueprint of success. That's the blueprint. Not Marlo, not Avon, not Stringer, not McNulty. This is the blueprint for success as being laid out by the show. Be honest, be selfless, and identify the change, or the first part is identify the change, and then be a part of it, then be honest, then be selfless.
We see
so both Stringer and Colvin identified a change, but they couldn't do it with honesty and selflessness. So they're doomed to fail.
So we go to the detail with McNulty. We go to Daniels, Perlman, and Phelan. They want him, of course, to sign off on the prepaid on the affidavit that would the prepaid phones for the Barksdales. They convinced him to do so as he continues to flirt with Perlman in front of Daniels. What are your thoughts on this scene?
Say that last part again.
As he continued to
I'm trying to get where. Go ahead. Say sorry.
As he continued to flirt with Perlman in front of Daniels.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's definitely set up. And the earlier scene and this scene are setting up two different things, right? It's setting up how they can possibly get up a wire on these phones, on the burner phones, and it's also setting up how they're going to get the judge to do it. McNulty had one way, which burnt that bridge, so now they have to build the bridge again in a different way. And so Perlman's using his enjoyment of her to get what she needs.
So we go to Lamar. He still continues to spend time at the bar. He's running to dead ends as when he asks, people don't know, or people are not talking to him as far as regards to Omar. And he knocks over a bottle, says he's going to keep coming back. As you see, and then we see Rawls at the end of the scene. We see Rawls in that same bar. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Set up.
We go to Colvin, Mello, McNulty. Colvin and Mello discuss Amsterdam, and you hear McNulty. Colvin tells McNulty that he knows that Avon got shot. He says, tells McNulty, see if I want you to check and see if you confirm that piece of information and check with me to see if it checks out. McNulty tries to find out who his CI is, and of course Colvin does not give that away. Of course, we know earlier in this scene that it was one. Of course, we can make the assumption, the connection, who it is, but we see how Colvin is basically practicing what he preaches to Carver in terms of basically having people that can give him valuable information. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Set up.
We see Stringer is reading a newspaper. He sees that developers some land developers are being given grants, which frustrates him. Then he tells Shamrock to get some information over to Levy because he wants to, of course, Stringer wants to find out more about what's going on, about why he's not getting the grants. Big time setup for next episode in regards to that. And we see Omar watching Stringer get into a truck, get into his truck. So you see Omar scoping out, casing the Barksdale, the Barksdale lair, so to speak. The Barksdale headquarters. What were your thoughts?
Remember when I mean, I have thoughts on the first part, but just remember when Stringer was giving it, somebody gave Stringer or Avon advice. I can't remember who it was, but the advice was given, are you sure you want to take on Marlo and
Omar? Yeah.
And Omar at the same time?
Charles gave that to Avon.
Yeah. So, I mean, Omar's doing Omar. He out there watching, always. Patience on that character, crazy. But to the first part of it, it is, wait, what was the first part? I start thinking about that thing. What was the first part?
Well, the first part is
of the scene before we switch to Avon.
No, we're talking about Avon. This was Stringer. No, this is Stringer talking about the getting grants. No, we weren't talking about Avon.
Oh yeah. So what I was gonna say about that is just like, like you don't even have to. I don't even have to be like, oh, what's coming up? Yeah, I can't talk, everything like that. It just, even at the time, I was just like, why are you giving the lawyer papers after the fact? Isn't that something you should do before you go into business with somebody? Don't you have your lawyer look at all the stuff before, not after everything has happened?
Yeah.
So I mean, of course, I understand the scene, I understand the setup, I understand all of that. But just in looking at it this time, again, it just popped in my head again. I mean, it's really well done and it's set up for future, but that just popped in my head again. Like, man, Stringer, it really feels like you should have thought of giving your lawyer the papers before. It really feels like you should have thought about it.
I wonder. Really I mean, that's a fair point. I wonder if he didn't want to deal with Levy because he thought Levy was, on Avon's, side of the street. I wondered how much that impacted his decision to try to avoid.
But Avon was in prison at that point in time.
No, I'm talking about this. Yeah. I mean, yeah, this is true. Yeah, he was. I don't know. I mean, I can't. I'm trying to make it.
There's nothing to fully flesh out. We know why he's doing it. We know all the points, everything like that. It's just like, man, Stringer, it just feels like you should have done that earlier. You really should have done that earlier.
No, without question. Levy is the guy. That's why you have a Levy to discuss things like that.
That's why you have a lawyer. That's absolutely right. That's why you have a lawyer. Or even if it's not Levy, hire somebody, right? To then look at the paperwork. Get your own lawyer then.
I mean, that's another thing too, in regards to how Stringer deals with things versus a Cuddy. When Cuddy runs into walls, Cuddy will ask for help. Like, yo, I need.
Yes.
He will ask for help from people who can help him. So we saw.
And because he's willing to admit he doesn't know the answer.
No. Yes.
Stringer's not willing to admit that.
No. Stringer's not willing to admit that, and never has been, for that matter. Like, Stringer always has. Had to be the smartest in the room, or perceived to be the smartest in the room. Even going back to we did an episode of season 2 when he's talking to his boys, trying to use these fancy words to make himself
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. It's very easy to impress when the people you're impressing don't have access to the thing that you're lauding over them, right? So it's very easy to impress someone like me with a $5 million mansion. I'm very impressed. I'm super impressed. But Bill Gates, somebody with, $10 billion, $5 million mansion, not as impressive. And you're not going to get the same reaction out of them. So I say that to say, Stringer's been getting that feedback early on because he was talking to people who did not have the access to the education or the the things that he was getting. But it was still far below to the people with privilege who've had access to that their entire lives. Like, best believe none of those guys, no shade on community college, but none of those guys are going to a community college.
No.
To learn about business and how to operate business, right? That's stuff that's theoretically taught to you, and then you learn through practice. You learn the real way through practice. And yeah, Stringer was not a part of any of that.
Yeah.
So now he's dealing with people who actually know what they're doing. And more importantly, know that you don't know what you're doing.
Yes.
So you're a baby at this.
So we go to Kima Bubbles McNulty. Well, in particular, Kima and McNulty, they thought that they saw B.D. Russell. McNulty tries to catch up. Well, Bubbles was in the car with them as well. So they think they saw B.D. Russell. Of course, we saw her picture in the last episode when Freeman was talking to McNulty. It turns out that the girl that they caught up to was not B.D. Russell. But again, that is, of course, the show trying to throw you some more breadcrumbs at where McNulty is going. And that'll be major foreshadowing with this particular scene. What were your thoughts?
Yeah, set up.
So we go to Colvin at Comstat. He confesses to Amsterdam to. It seemed like as he's confessing, and this had to be intentional, that the only person that to pick up to understand what he was confessing, or what he was doing was Rawls. What were your thoughts on this scene and the fact that Burrell was like real late to the party as far as connecting the dots? How intentional you think that was in showing?
It was very intentional.
Go ahead.
But it wasn't a misunderstanding. It's what Colvin was saying was so crazy to them, was so out of their comfort zone or their understanding of how the world works, how their lives work. It was hard to process, right? So it's like, think about a time in your life where somebody gave you a piece of information, and it's not that the information was hard to understand, it's you couldn't process it because of what was being said, right? So like a great example is like whatever, or not a great example, but an example that a lot of people can relate to is whenever they've found out a loved one has died, right? Like we all know people die, but it's hard to process when it's somebody that you know and that you care about, and that is the relevant point is it's hard to process because it's something that is close to you and it's something you can't imagine happening, right? And so with this in this perspective, the way it relates in this one is that Colvin is saying something, is giving them information that is digestible. These blocks are clear because I moved everybody into these 3 zones. That is easily digestible. The part that no one can process correctly in that time, or it's challenging for them to process immediately, is that he legalized, or he told his police officers not to do it, not to stand by it, because it is illegal. And that's what I love about this scene, or maybe it's the scene after this, the other one when they come back. It's illegal. What he's doing is highly illegal. It's illegal. It's illegal. So you're coming into a group of police officers and you're admitting to doing something illegal. That's very hard to process. It's very hard to process. And so I flip it. What does that say about Rawls that he was so easily able to get there? So that's why I was joking about that part, but that's why.
Yeah. I mean, it just, the Rawls.
To them, what he's doing sounds crazy.
Yeah, no. You heard Rawls' reaction. It was like Rawls was the quickest to pick up on it, but the rest of the people were like, yeah, they just could not believe that what was coming
because
out.
the guy who's worked the mayor's office representative, I forget his name, his character's name. Oh, I forget his name. I never knew his real name, and I forget the character's name. But the black guy in there, he's like, wait, the only way we can hold a corner is if you have the police officers there 24/7. So how are you doing? How is this an enforcement thing? But COVID has, I told him to ignore it. No, that's not an answer. That's not an answer. No, absolutely not. That is not an answer. So yeah.
So you have, all right,
yeah.
so
and
wrap up,
Rawls is us being like, this is crazy. You're crazy. You legalize drugs and you're going to tear us all down with you.
so Burrell says at the end of the scene, of course, tells him to get in his office once he's once everybody has figured out what Coleman has done. We go to Kima, Squeak, and Bubbles. Of course, Bubbles infiltrates Squeak, starts talking. Of course, that was Bernard's girlfriend. Starts talking to her, and gives and sells her a prepaid burner phone. What were your thoughts on this scene?
This isn't the full scene, right?
This is not the full scene, no.
Okay, set up.
We go to Rawls, Coleman, and Burrell. Burrell, of course, is taking full responsibility for the entire operation. He gives Burrell a set of letters from the community. He threatens Burrell as well in terms of he threatens to threatens Burrell with information against him as well, and says, Burrell says, "Are you threatening me? Are you threatening me?" And Coleman says, "I guess I am, sir." And then Coleman sees Burrell sees the letters from the community, from some of the community members. Rawls, of course, saying, calling it a brilliant idea, but the one that, of course, will end all their careers. So Rawls was kind of even, I don't think just sarcastic. I think Rawls was kind of impressed with it. What was your thoughts?
Yeah, I don't know. No, I don't know if I can go down that alley with you. Yeah. I think everybody's well aware that it's going to be a cluster, and then it's just how is it? What is it? What is it going to look like? How many heads are going to roll like that? So I think Rawls is being facetious.
And he also tells them about the Baltimore Sun Reporter. So we go to By the way,
so a couple of just funny notices that I love about the scene real quick. Is just like is that part right there is just like he's like, oh, and by the way, the papers know, and you got 7 days. Like, what? You drop all this on us right now, and you tell me I got 7 days? Oh. I'm surprised they didn't pull out the guns and just start shooting him right there. Firing squad. This is beyond fireable. Somebody put this man out of his misery for that.
Of course,
that just made me laugh.
He gets put on administrative leave. Says,
sure.
Burrell says, begin taking some of your vacation days immediately before he walks out the office. So we go to Mayor Royce and we go to, let me see, Freeman. Oh yeah, we go to Freeman, Bernard, Squeak, and Bubbles. Freeman convinces Bernard to do the deal. He's able to pick some cell numbers out of the cloud. This scene was way advanced from my understanding of tech, some of the tech stuff that they were trying to do. Well, Bernard was impressed with Freeman's ability to pick some of the numbers out. Of course, but Freeman has the help of Caroline, as she's undercover with him as well. So Freeman sells Bernard on on the fact that he should do business with him. Bernard, wants receipts. Bernard, of course, wants receipts, and Freeman. Well, no, we'll wait to get to that part. Bernard is, of course, sold on Freeman on what Freeman can do, and says, "Hey, we can do business." What are your thoughts?
I was going to ask you if you understood the scene, because that's the thing that pot. So this all setup is fine. So we know where this is going. But I just was like, I've watched this a bunch of times, and I'm sitting there trying hard and concentrating this time. Really, I was like, I don't understand what they're saying. I don't understand this plan, and not because they're not being clear. It's that it's so complicated. And so I just really appreciated the show taking the time out to really just break it down. Cause I think I finally got it to a point, but I was just like, oh, this is complicated. No wonder they were having such a hard time with this. This is complicated. Yeah. So I was just like, I don't understand this. I don't understand. Like, this is so complicated.
The overall plan was to have them sell the prepaid burners that were already bugged to them. It was just but I didn't understand how they were going to just execute it. Like, how they're going to execute.
Yeah, that's the nitty gritty of it. Yeah, no, I get that they want to pre-bug the phone. Yeah. Everybody that's what we all landed on all this time. But the action, anybody can say that. That's what I love about The Wire. Anybody can say all these other shows, and I'll just be general right now. All these other shows, we'll just leave it at that. We just got bugged or burnt, and then all of a sudden the burners will be bugged, and everything will be going ahead. This show takes the time to explain it. Explain the process to let you know there's a reason. It's not good cops, bad cops, da-da-da. It's skill set. And that's what Bunny was also talking about in that lesson that he was giving Carver. It's about the skill of the person and what skills you give them. We've only taught y'all, going back to that scene, we've only taught y'all how to bust heads. Y'all don't know how to work a beat. Get in good with the community so that you have people who want to tell you what's going on. Will they want to go up in front of a judge? No, but they'll at least call you and tell you the right places to look. Anyway, so that's part of the lesson. And so in this situation, that's again the reiteration of that lesson. Yeah.
So we go back to Cuddy and the kids. They come back to the gym as Cuddy is training another young man. So we see the payoff from Cuddy humbling himself and apologizing to the young Hopper from earlier on, as that kid comes back to the gym.
So yes, you named it. That is the payoff. But what I appreciated about how they played the scene was it wasn't like he came in and was like, Cuddy, I realized all along you were the dad I never had.
Right.
And they hugged it out. Like, no, it was very, very yeah, he's back. And that's enough. Was he going to come in and start, being like, oh, this, no. And that doesn't happen. That never happens. That's not how trust is built. You don't just come in and be like, oh, I trust everything, everything. So I really appreciated about how they did that. And then also the undercurrent of all of this, and I do have, just because this is happening so much, I do have to say it. The mover behind this is Carver. The reason this kid is coming back is Carver is sending him back or supporting and sending him back. He's the man behind the scenes on this one, on the Cuddy's connection with the kids.
Yes. Yeah, we go to no, before we go to the scene, so Colvin says something to Carver that we saw throughout the course of this episode in regards to soldiering versus policing. And he says there are two different things. And basically, was telling Carver, all you guys know is soldiering right now versus not too much soldiering and not enough policing. So that's an important part to remember too in regards to how Cuddy is dealing with the kid, with the kids. He was, the first scene where we saw him getting smart with the kids, and he basically calls out this kid for getting beat up, saying this is the reason why I can see why you're in here. That was policing. I mean, that was soldiering. He's going at him, getting kid getting in his face and what have you. And then we see the policing aspect of it when he apologizes to the kid, when he shows some vulnerability to the young man, and the young men who wanted to, who were his, who were boxing, who were going to box for him. So you saw the difference to is that that Colvin mentioned, and you saw how Cuddy exercised those versus some of our other characters who are trying to reform. We go to Mayor Royce and Burrell. Of course, Burrell tells Mayor Royce about Amsterdam, and of course, Royce jumps on top of Burrell about it, and basically sends Burrell away, and until Burrell gives him the letters, tells him about the 14% drop in crime, and he also gives them the letters from the community. And then you see at the end of the scene, Royce's opinion on the situation kind of starts to shift when he sees that 14% drop. What were your thoughts?
His guy says, "Don't even think it, Royce." That's how that ends. But the initial part of that is Royce also tells not Royce. Mayor Royce tells Burrell, "You walk point on this. You know how it works."
Yes.
So essentially what he's saying is, if this goes bad, you're getting blamed. And the other guys being like in the back, like, "Nah, you commissioner." Like, you're not commissioner. So I say that to say is, this is the Wyatt also point out systemically how this all happens in our daily lives, where we work, on a TV show, everything like that, right? This is what they mean by the ish rolls downhill, right? So it's like the reason why Colvin's plan and Amsterdam was such a bad idea was not because of the way in which he saw things and wanted to work things out. The reason why it's a bad idea is because he's not the person who can make that call ever. And so he makes that call, but it impacts the people directly above him. I don't know why this is in my mind, because it's kind of a spoiler, but I think I need to say it in this scenario, that there's a scene that's coming up in the later episode where they go to the state house. And my only reason for bringing that up is this goes all the way up to the president. Like, you cannot sanction drugs without the specific, like, all the risk. I mean, we could outline, it'll never happen, never, ever could happen, especially at that point in time, what they were seeing in the country or whatever. And so this is a decision like that is something that has to start at the top and then come all the way down. You can't start it from where he's from. You can't start it. And so this is another, like, it's the reverse side of that political pressure. It's political pressure, but it's the other side. We've been seeing it as the mayor pressures the lieutenant to get the commissioner to get the crime down, and the commissioner gets on his peoples, and then his peoples get on the street, and da-da-da. That's how this policing and that's how the soldiering has happened from that point. And they've made a very, very clear stats and all the different reasons why that's going down. Well, there's this other thing that happens where if I'm sitting at the top, these people way under me, if they make a stupid decision, that comes all the way back on me. So if I'm at the top, I'm going to be super protective. I'm going to be super reactionary to anything that could potentially harm my career. And as you can see, the directives roll downhill, but the super big, huge story, they always want the tippy top. They always want the tippy top first. Who's the biggest, like in our realm of sports, college, pro sports, where all that stuff was going around about, I mean, it's always going around, but whenever it gets brought out to light of who's doing what dirt, whatever the dirt is, it's the coach from the highest profile national program is who they want. That's who they want. Damn all the Division II and III and high school. Then nobody cares about that. We want the highest profile athlete. We want the highest profile coach. Same difference here. And so everybody is now going to go into damage control mode. Just some people make some very not smart choices when it comes to damage control.
Freeman, Bernard, and Squeak. Freeman explains to Bernard what he does and what he does and how he's gonna how he can help them out, how they can do business. Bernard says, I can't play without receipts. And Freeman says, I appreciate it, man, with caution. And ask Caroline, can we make this happy? And then can we make this happen, I should say. And then, of course, she's playing the role of undercover and says they can, they can do it. But she says it, reluctantly as she doesn't want to do it. But again, she's playing a part as the undercover along with Freeman. Just interesting to see Freeman undercover. I thought Clark Peters was brilliant in these undercover in these particular scenes where he plays the undercover cop. He really sold it well for Bernard and Squeak. What were your thoughts on this scene?
Set up.
And we go to the final scene where we had to go to Lamar in the bar. Lamar, continues to ask about Omar, tells the bartender he's not going nowhere. He's not going nowhere. He's going to continue to come back. We see Dante hear Omar's name used. Dante, of course, follows Lamar outside the bar, and then basically confronts him about asking about Omar. Then you see Brother Muzone. Brother Muzone knocked Dante out cold with hits him upside his head, knocks him out cold, and we see the episode end. What were your thoughts on the last scene?
That I really liked how they showed the progression of why Homeboy was baked. And that's exactly what he was. He was baked the entire time. That was the only purpose that he served. We're with Omar and Brother, we are watching two predators in their environment, and their different tactics at getting information.
Yeah, very interesting how he uses Lamar. Now, we've seen Lamar as his assistant per se, and we know that the show has kind of made him to be inept at times, kind of inept. So the assignment that Muzone gives him is a very simple assignment. Just go in the bar and ask questions and ask about Omar. That's it.
Yep.
So I think that it was important for me and for the audience if you're going to speak on how inept this dude is, you can't give him this complicated assignment or this in terms of you trying to find Omar. I was sold on the fact that this dude is incompetent, but he could do this. He could do that. He could be bait. So I was sold on it from that standpoint. When there might have been some criticism saying, "Wait, hold on, how could this dude possibly work with a Brother Muzone who is as organized and forward thinking as a character can be, and intelligent and what have you?" But so they sold that well to me with this particular scene, not giving Lamar, a major a lot of major assignments, something that, something basic. So that wrapped up the episode. We saw, of course, the themes of the walls are closing in. The walls are closing in on a lot of our characters, whether it be Stringer Bell, the Barksdale organization, Bunny Colvin, and even the Major Crimes Unit in terms of trying to find some more information on Springer and Avon with the pressure that's being applied as well. So you saw a number of cases, a number of situations in this episode where the walls were closing in on a number of our characters over the course of this episode. Who was your MVP?
All right, I'm gonna do something a little bit different today. So my MVP is going to be the show The Wire. Now I know that sounds like a cop-out. Let me explain. So I started the episode, I was watching the episode, and then the episode was over. I was like, it literally feels like I've just been watching this for 15 minutes. But I watched the entire episode. And so literally I had all the commentary I said to myself, and then at the end I was just like, that was so literally out loud to myself. I'm like, that was so good. And then that's when I was like, wait, I watched that entire episode. I was so locked in and just engrossed in that. And that hasn't happened to me in forever. I can't remember the last time where literally, of course, there've been engaging TV. I've been involved. We've talked about it many, many times. But I haven't had that feeling where literally I pushed for it to start and then it was over. That's how locked in it just ain't something that I've seen a bunch of times. I was genuinely shocked by how into this episode I was. I genuinely was. So that's why I'm naming the entire show as my MVP. I could not have had a better time watching something. It's fantastic.
Yeah, these last couple episodes, I would say 8 through 10 have been fast-paced in terms of fast-moving as far as they're not spending a lot of times on scenes. And
I'm gonna pause you right there really quickly because that's not what I'm saying. So if that's your perception, perfect. That's not what I'm saying. Okay, go ahead.
No. I'm not saying you're saying that. I'm saying that this is what I've noticed over the last couple of episodes that they've been kind of fast-paced, especially for The Wire, and they're allowed to do that because we're seeing the benefits of a number of payoffs that have been, some of seasons in the making. So it's pretty cool to kind of watch, these episodes move quicker as the seasons go along.
I'm going to agree with you on that, and I'm going to add more on top of that. And this is what I meant when we were talking about at first. I think they're becoming better storytellers, because if it was just sparse, then that would intrigue me. It's because there's so much going on that I can lock in so completely and thoroughly. That's what gets my mind going. And so, for example, the plan with the cells, I was just thinking about that so much, and just trying to unfurl all of that. There just aren't shows that do that. There just isn't anything that has that type of mental thing in there, because especially now, my attention span, I've got 5 minutes for a show. If you don't impress me within the first 5 minutes, gone. I'm on to the next thing. I don't have the time or the patience to engage with something that I'm unsure about, or something that is not giving me the intellectual stimulation that I have. And so that's what I mean. It's just, we're saying the same thing. That's why I just want to add more. After all these years, to still be able to do that, just amazing. Just amazing.
Yeah, I think I had MVP. I had a split between McNulty and Freeman for coming up with that idea about the prepaid.
Yep.
About the prepaid self.
Take McNulty out of it. I don't care what McNulty said. I'm thinking the same thing. No, you won't. Shut up. No. Take
McNulty. That's Freeman. No, that's Freeman.
No, you don't get to just say I was thinking the same thing and get credit for the plan. Hell no. No.
He did,
No.
he did say that. I was thinking the same thing. I was like,
No.
really.
He didn't do anything this plan. Nothing. Zero.
Oh, McNulty. He really was trying to take credit. He really was trying to take credit for that.
I'm thinking the same thing. Shut up. How do you go away? Get away from me. Go far away from me. Go to the other side of the room. McNulty thinking the same thing.
Oh man.
You don't get out my
Yeah.
I was thinking this. Go ahead. I was thinking the same thing. You say it. You say it. You put yourself out on the line there. How about that? And you talk about.
Oh man.
You tell the whole plan. Go. You got it. Since you had it, go ahead. Nah, go ahead.
I mean, you can see the frustration, but you can see kind of like they didn't flush it out. They didn't flush it out as far as seeing Lester's like response or anything like that. But you can only imagine what was going on in Freeman's head. He's invested out countless hours towards, looking at these computers and looking at, Bernard and trying, and all, going through all that. And then McNulty's like, yeah, we had the same, we were on the same page. Like what? Like, what are we talking about here? We were on the same page.
Exactly.
So,
but no, Freeman. These are your MVPs, Freeman and McNulty.
Freeman, I'll put it to Freeman. This.
No, it's yours. It's your MVP. He annoyed me so much when he said that. I was like, no, you don't get the. Anyways.
The Chardine Award I gave to Coleman for the Carver speech. I thought he was good in that. He really was. Yeah. I thought he was.
Yeah.
He was convincing.
Yeah.
You could, Carver. I think Carver was like. I think the reason why Carver just didn't respond because I think Carver knew it was true.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think Carver knew.
That's a really good one.
I think Carver knew that was true. Who was your Chardine?
I was gonna give my Chardine. I give my Chardine to Spider is Spider, right? Spider and Cuddy. Right, Spider, right?
You mean Justin? Yeah. He apologized.
Okay, yeah. That's why. Yeah. Yep. I'm not even gonna say I'm getting them confused. If I had, it would be for it off.
Yeah.
But yeah, so Justin and Cuddy.
Right. The scene. So you're talking about the scene where Cuddy apologized. That scene.
I'm talking about all of it.
All the scene. Okay, all of them could. Yeah.
Because you can't have like I'm talking about the argument. Like that whole,
all their scenes,
and then to the reconciliation. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. They both did their thing. And I see that as an arc. I can't separate those scenes out.
No.
That's an arc that they had together.
Yeah. No, they had some. Their scenes were definitely some key scenes, and especially in regards to Cuddy's story. Cuddy. We have 2 episodes left for the season. 2 episodes. Cuddy is definitely in the running for season MVP. And he just put that out there. I mean, this character has grown on me more so even after this watch than I remember in previous rewatches.
Real, think about what's coming up.
I say he's in the running. I say he's in the running.
I think Cuddy has. I've put it out there. I think he's the best developed character on this show by the time we get to the end. But Real, come on now. We got some monsters coming up these next 2 episodes.
We do, next episode in particular.
We got some monsters. Just think about that. Just think. I mean, you can hold on to it. I'm just cautioning you. We have some monsters coming up.
Yeah. So that's going to wrap up the show. Wrap up this episode of the Wire Remix Season 3, Episode 10. Of course, next episode will be you will be in for a treat, to say the least, and it will be we'll flesh out that episode. We'll have a lot of fun with that episode because it is a landmark episode, iconic episode that is coming up. Episode 11.
Should we start with the ending first next week? I don't know how long I cannot, like, it's been torture this entire season, not being able to talk about it. I just don't know if I'm going to make it through the episode. Make it through to get there. And so, anyway, yeah. It's one of the most, I mean, it's a top, like it's a top 5 television history moment. Or top whatever. It's just it doesn't get bigger than this. It doesn't get bigger than this.
It is. No, we will have a lot of fun.
It's not only because of what happens, it's because of the story that's been told up until this point in time that makes it so valuable.
Yeah, it ties everything up. It ties a lot of things up that they've been putting in place for seasons, not just.
Yeah, you think about how you're going to construct the show next week. As you can see, it's going to be a monster. It's going to be a monster show because because it's so good. It's just so good. It's just so well executed. It's so good.
About to flesh out. But we will see you then. As always, thanks to Rob Sapp for joining the program.
All right, sir. Be safe, be healthy.
All right, no question about it.
All
right. That's going to wrap it up for this latest edition of the Real Deal podcast. As always, you can subscribe to my YouTube channel, www.youtube.com/c/Real Deal podcast. I will see you next time. Have a great rest of your evening. I'm out.